It started like every other awful Sunday at my parents' house: forced smiles, backhanded comments, and the kind of tension that makes you want to curl in on yourself and disappear. I hated bringing my son Ethan there. He was only 7, a sweet, quiet boy who never caused trouble. But my parents had made it clear that if I didn't keep showing up for these family days, I'd hear about it for weeks. I'd always hoped maybe, just maybe, they'd show him a fraction of the love they never gave me. But every visit proved me wrong. That afternoon, the sun was beating down as we all stood in the driveway. My sister, Amber, was leaning against my dad's truck, tapping away on her phone with that smug grin she wore whenever she was plotting something. She's been cruel since we were kids, but now it was worse, like every mean streak had been sharpened over time. Ethan stayed close to me, holding my hand tight like he could sense what kind of people we were surrounded by. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Dad was fiddling with his keys, grumbling about how slow Ethan walked, how kids these days were soft compared to when he was a boy. I bit my tongue arguing with him never led anywhere good. We were just about to leave when Amber called out, "Hey Ethan, come here a sec. Want to see something cool?" Ethan looked up at me, uncertain. I hesitated but nodded, trying to encourage him. "Go on, honey, but be careful." He walked toward her, his little hands clasped in front of him. Amber knelt down next to the truck, exaggeratedly pulling the handle on the back door. "See this?" she said in a sing-song voice. "It's a magic door. You put your fingers right here, and it makes a funny noise." Before I could even process what she said, she grabbed his small hand, shoved his fingers toward the doorframe, and slammed it shut, hard. The sound that followed will haunt me forever. Ethan's scream was raw, panicked, animal-like. His little body crumpled as he clutched his hand, tears streaming down his face. I froze for half a second, then lunged toward him, pulling him into my arms, checking his tiny fingers. They were red and swelling fast, and I could see the imprint of the door where it had slammed. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I screamed at Amber, voice shaking with rage. "He's a child. He's my son." She laughed. She actually laughed, holding her stomach like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. "It was just a joke," she snickered, glancing at Dad. "Lighten up." I turned to Dad, expecting, praying for him to say something, to finally defend me or his grandson, but he just leaned back on his truck, lips curled into that mean grin I knew too well. "That's what happens to useless kids," he said flatly. "Maybe it'll toughen him up." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My ears rang, my heart pounded, and everything inside me screamed to grab Ethan and run far, far away. But louder than that was the shattering of something I'd been holding onto for years, the last scrap of hope that maybe one day my parents would change, that they would see me, see my son, as worthy of love. I scooped Ethan up, his sobs breaking my heart, and carried him to my car without another word. Amber called after me, "Don't be so sensitive. It was funny." And Dad's laugh followed me all the way to the driver's seat, echoing in my ears like poison. As I buckled Ethan in, trying to soothe him, rage and grief swirled in my chest like a storm. I looked at his small, trembling body and thought of every time I had begged for kindness in this family and got cruelty instead. They had hurt me my whole life, but this was my breaking point. They had gone after my son. I kissed Ethan's forehead, whispering, "I promise, baby, they'll never hurt you again." And as I drove away from that house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, a single thought burned in my mind, a vow carved deep into my soul. They took every ounce of love from me and now tried to break my child. I'm done begging. I'm done hoping. I'm going to take away everything they think they can't lose, and they'll never see it coming. I didn't sleep that night. Ethan lay beside me, finally dozing off after hours of crying, his tiny fingers bandaged and resting on my chest. Every time I looked at his swollen hand, a new wave of fury crashed through me, so sharp it left me trembling. I thought about every insult my parents had thrown at me growing up, every bruise I'd hidden, every time they told me I was worthless. I thought about how I swore my son would never live the same life I did, and now Amber had slammed a car door on his hand like he was some kind of toy she could break for fun, and my father had laughed. That was the moment something inside me hardened. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I wasn't just a daughter trying to keep the peace. I was a mother who'd had enough, and I wasn't going to yell or plead or beg anymore. I was going to make them feel the kind of loss they'd taught me all my life, the loss of control, the loss of power, the loss of every single thing they used to feel superior. The next morning I made a decision. I would never take Ethan back there again. They didn't deserve him. They didn't deserve me. And they sure as hell didn't deserve to keep playing family while treating us like dirt. But that wasn't enough to stop the gnawing in my chest. They had to learn what it felt like to be truly useless. Not because I said it, but because their own world crumbled under their feet. I started quietly, observing their lives from a distance. My dad's entire identity revolved around his image as the pillar of the family, a man who controlled everything, his money, his reputation, even the way we breathed around him. My sister's ego was built on cruelty and mockery, like she could only shine if she dimmed everyone else's light. Without an audience, neither of them mattered. And that's exactly what I was going to take away first, their ability to matter to anyone. I blocked every number they had, changed my locks, pulled Ethan out of the weekly visits they insisted on. The calls and voicemails started pouring in within a week. First came the irritation. "You're overreacting, it was just a joke." Then the confusion. "Where are you? You're being dramatic." Eventually, the desperation. "You can't cut us off. We're family." I smiled bitterly every time I heard their messages. Family? Family doesn't slam a child's fingers in a door and laugh about it. Family doesn't tell a little boy he's useless. Family doesn't watch you suffer your whole life and find it entertaining. But the real revenge wasn't just cutting them off. It was making sure the world they ruled like tyrants collapsed from within. I started talking to people, extended relatives, old friends of theirs, even neighbors who had always thought my dad was this great, respectable man, and Amber was the fun aunt. I never yelled or slandered. I just told the truth, the kind of truth that made people fall silent and look disgusted. How Amber had hurt Ethan, how Dad had laughed, how they treated me like garbage for years. I let their own actions speak for themselves. Soon, invitations to family gatherings stopped coming their way. The people they boasted to about their perfect family stopped picking up their calls. Their little kingdom was rotting from the inside, and I hadn't even started yet. One evening, I saw a post Amber had made online, whining about how my sister is trying to ruin our family and turn everyone against us. I looked at Ethan, sleeping soundly beside me, finally safe, finally free from their cruelty, and whispered, "No, Amber, I'm not ruining family. I'm just showing people who you really are." And as I turned out the lights that night, a new plan started forming, a final move that wouldn't just take their reputation, but every ounce of comfort and control they'd ever stolen from me. This time, I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to take everything they thought they'd never lose, and I was going to watch their perfect little empire crumble to dust. Weeks passed, and the quiet was blissful. Ethan's laughter slowly returned, hesitant at first, but every day a little louder, a little freer. I could finally breathe without waiting for the next insult, the next cruel joke. But I wasn't done. My father and Amber had spent a lifetime making me feel powerless, teaching me what useless meant in their world. They'd tried to pass that poison on to my son. Now it was their turn to live with nothing, stripped of the very things they used to hurt us. It started with my dad. His entire sense of importance came from being the provider, the man everyone respected for his work, his connections, his reputation as a pillar of the community. I started dismantling that image brick by brick, using nothing but the truth they thought would never leave the house. Quietly, I reached out to the people who praised him the most. his boss, his drinking buddies, the folks at church who thought he was a family man. I told them what really happened that Sunday afternoon. How a grandfather watched his 7-year-old grandson scream in pain and called him useless. How he laughed while Amber slammed the car door on a child's hand for fun. I showed them a photo of Ethan's bruised, swollen fingers from that day. I didn't need to add anything else. The picture and their own words spoke louder than I ever could. Within weeks, my dad's flawless reputation was in shambles. Friends stopped calling. People whispered when he walked into the diner. His boss, who had always bragged about his integrity, called him in and gave him an ultimatum: retire quietly or face a very public HR investigation for violent family behavior brought to light. My dad chose retirement, not out of guilt, but out of shame that his image had finally cracked. Then came Amber. Her whole life revolved around being admired, online, in her social circle, everywhere. She was the fun sister, the life of the party. But when the same story spread to her friends, to the parents at her son's school, to the people she'd bragged to for years about how amazing she was, admiration turned to disgust. She tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but no one bought it. Invitations dried up. Her social accounts were flooded with comments asking how she could hurt a child and laugh. The friends she thought were loyal vanished overnight. The final blow was quiet but devastating. They loved power, they loved control, but they loved money just as much. Over the years, they had guilted me into helping them financially whenever they needed a hand. But now, with my dad out of a job and Amber losing freelance work thanks to her reputation, they came crawling back, pretending to be sorry. "You can't really mean to cut us off," my dad said on voicemail, his tone suddenly fragile. "We're family. We need you now." And that's when I made sure they understood what real uselessness felt like. I met them one last time in the same driveway where Ethan had been hurt. My dad stood there looking older, tired, stripped of the swagger he'd always worn like armor. Amber lingered behind him, pale and quiet, the queen without a throne. I looked them both in the eyes and said, "You called my son useless while he screamed in pain. You spent my whole life telling me I was worthless. You thrived on making me small, making us hurt, while you stood tall. But now, look around. You have no friends, no respect, no power. No one left to pretend you're good people. You wanted us to believe we had no value? Now you know exactly what that feels like." My dad opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Amber's eyes filled with tears, not from remorse, but from the realization that she had nothing left to hold on to. I took Ethan's hand, kissed his head, and turned to leave. My last words echoed in the empty air, heavy and final. "Hut, you can't slam a door on someone forever and expect it to stay open when you need it. You taught me uselessness. Now you get to live it." We walked away, and this time I didn't look back. Their laughter was gone. Their empire built on cruelty had collapsed, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel useless. I felt free, holding Ethan's hand, knowing they would spend the rest of their days tasting the same emptiness they forced on us, and there was no joke left in it. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching.